Monsters was a horror anthology series that aired from 1988 to 1991. Richard P. Rubenstein was the producer on this series. He also produced Tales from the Dark Side, Dawn of the Dead, and Day of the Dead. Richard P. Rubenstein was also, along with George Romero, one of the producers of Tales from the Dark Side. Unlike Friday the 13th, the series, and Tales from the Dark Side, I watched Monsters from the very beginning. The first episode I saw was The Fever Man. Fever Man was a solid start to the series and held my interest enough to continue on with subsequent episodes. The episode that really definitely just hooked me in, I believe, was maybe the second or third episode of the series. It had zombies in it, my favorite monsters, and I don't remember the name of the episode, but the episode starred Tempest Bledsoe from The Cosby Show, who played Vanessa. And she played the daughter in this family that was like, there was this world in which zombies would come to life one day out of every year. And, society at large was all used to it and all prepared for it. And Tempest's character was this teenager who had a classmate who had passed away the year before, and his classmate on the day of the zombie resurrections decides to pay her a visit, and hilarity and chaos ensues. I love that episode. It's easily one of my favorites of the series. In very many ways, it was very similar to Tales from the Dark Side. Most of the episodes were focused on horror. Once in a while, the episodes would delve into like horror / science fiction or horror / fantasy. It had a different tone and feeling from Tales from the Dark Side. I wish I could better articulate what was different. I mean, it did come a few years after Tales from the Dark Side. So in that sense, like, it feels different because of the time period. Tales from the Dark Side was mid 80s to late 1980s. Monsters was late 80s to the early 90s. But I think maybe the more difference between Monsters and Tales from the Dark Side, maybe Tales from the Dark Side had a little bit more of a grittier feeling to it. Maybe because the film stock was older, maybe because the budget seemed to be a little bit less expensive. Though in reality, I have no idea if it was. It could have been more costly than Monsters was. Monsters looked a little bit more slicked, a little bit more polished. But yeah, like, both series were just excellent horror series, like a diverse of stories, a diverse of monsters, a diverse of horror lore. One of the most compelling and heartbreaking episodes of Monsters is an episode named Glim Glim, which has an early appearance of Jenna Von Oy before she achieved her fame on Blossom. This episode of Monsters is about a father, his daughter, and his friend who take refuge in a library. And they're in this town in which a disease has spread across town, killed just about everyone in it, and they are the last survivors left, or so it seems. And then later on, not too long into the episode, is revealed that there is another survivor, but one of non-human origin, an alien. And I'm not going to go any further than that. The rest of the episode should be seen. But yeah, it's just, I had actually seen the ending of the episode before I saw the whole thing. And in fact, I don't remember seeing the episode at all during the show's initial first run. I remember seeing it on repeats a number of years later, and I remember coming to the ending of it, like, just being just devastating. Like, whoa, wait, what? What is this? And it took me a while to actually see the episode again in its entirety for the first time. But yeah, it's easily one of my favorite episodes from the series. Another one of my favorite episodes is a huge fan favorite named The Match Game. This episode stars Ashley Lawrence and Tori Spelling, and it is definitely one of the most horrific and most intense episodes in the series, and actually quite disturbing. Other episodes that I'm a big fan of is The Gift. That may be, along with Glim Glim, one of the most heartbreaking episodes. The ending gets to me every time. The Gift. Other episodes are, there's just so many. There's the one with the boy who was like being like, he had a domineering mother, an older sister, and they essentially kept him locked in the basement. It starred the kid who played the youngest son in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I can't remember his last name. I think his first name was Oliver. I'm sorry, I think his first name is Robert. I think it might be Robert Oliver, I think. But yeah, he's locked in the basement, and then he comes across like this small, really small dinosaur-like creature that looks kind of like one of those like those toys where you would put a toy in water and you would watch it grow, type of thing. And the same concept kind of happens to him. But of course, the little dinosaurs on his side, it helps him stand up for himself. That was one of the best episodes. There were just so many. There was the one with the spider, like this couple going to honeymoon. They come across a huge giant spider. Another one is called The Waiting Game, which is clearly inspired, at least to some extent, by I Am Legend. There are numerous standout episodes in this series. But there is one episode in particular that stands head and shoulders amongst the rest of them. This episode to me is unquestionably the best TV anthology episode of all series ever made. I'm talking about broadcast cable, syndication, pay cable, streaming, whatever. This episode is my favorite TV anthology installment ever. The name of this episode is called The Hole, and it is a zombie episode. I remember when it first aired, I was just so excited seeing, like, this was like in the 90s where zombie media on TV was just virtually non-existent. Like at this point in the 90s, zombie media was hardly visible in the theaters anymore. If you wanted to see something zombie related, you would have to like go to the video store, pick up something that either went straight to video or came from abroad. And seeing this was like, I don't know, seeing a unicorn, seeing a zombie horror themed thing on television, particularly one that actually had a decent amount of gore in it for the time. This episode, set in Vietnam, starts off with a trio of soldiers who go inside this deep underground hole for a reconnaissance mission. And as they go further and further into the hole, they come across more than what they bargained for. They come across a whole slew of zombies that are just ridiculously and frighteningly relentless. Like, these things just do not know when to stop, and every single time they think they found a way out of this hole, they come across a dead end, then another, then it go in circles, and it's just this really harrowing, hopeless nightmare for these guys. That episode is A+ to me. It is one of the most harrowing and hopeless and horrific and awesome episodes of Monsters. Actually, no, what am I saying? Is the best episode of Monsters. Monsters, the TV series, doesn't even get half the attention that Tales from the Dark Side or Tales from the Crypt receives. And that's a shame, because I think it is just about as good as those two series and deserves a much bigger and brighter spotlight on it. Monsters does not deserve to be left to collect dust and the rot in the pop culture closet. It deserves to be free, out there in the spotlight for everyone to see, because these monsters are magnificent.